Founded in 1961 in Montreal, Canada, the French-speaking Universities Agency, AUF, is an organization that supports multilateral cooperation and solidarity among French-speaking and instructing institutions, particularly emphasized to Francophone African countries, Arab countries, Asia Pacific, Central Europe and Eastern Europe, and the Caribbean. AUF has over 695 members, including both public and private universities, institutes of higher education, network facilities, and operators related to college life. These members are gathered in the countries of the Francophone International Organization, OIF, in Vietnam. AUF has formed in 1993 through more than 20 years in Vietnam. AUF has achieved objectives to promote educational exchanges between Vietnam and the community of French-speaking countries in the region and worldwide. Hello everyone, and you're watching Sharing Vietnam on VTC10 Net Viet. With our previous program, we have learned the opportunities to study in French-speaking countries, and now come to know our guest speakers, Mr. Olivier Garrot, the Asia-Pacific Director of AUF in Vietnam. Now let's find out more in this program about their activities as well as their campaigns to promote and develop the French-speaking community in Vietnam. Thank you, Mr. Olivier, so much for joining Sharing Vietnam today. So first of all, let's share with our viewer more about yourself and what is your impressions when coming and working in Vietnam.
I have been in Vietnam for 4 years, and during this time, I had the chance to discover the beauty of Vietnam and its people through my job and my personal activities. In my point of view, this is the country with impressive natural view and size. However, I was more amazed by the hospitality of the people. As I always say, Vietnamese students are hardworking, extremely determined, and the people in general is friendly and very welcoming. This makes my work and life in Vietnam easy, and I love it. Despite the fact that the weather is a little bit challenging, changes all the time. Sometimes it is too hot, and a lot of times it was too cold. All these things does not stop me from feeling happy by working and making friends with Vietnam.
AUF is responsible for bringing professional experts to come to Vietnam and share about their expertise and their experience, and share with the viewers about the objectives and the achievement that AUF have done in Vietnam so far.
Alors c'est vrai que peut-être une des activités les plus importantes que nous avons, c'est de faire circuler de
It is truly one of the key activities of the AUF in Vietnam. That is the exchange of experts between the French-speaking countries, community in two dimensions, high interaction. This means that on one hand, we have the Francophonic experts come to Vietnam, bring along their knowledge and experience of their expertise. On the other hand, we also have the Vietnamese experts participate in academic exchange and study abroad. A typical example is the recent trip of our Vietnam expert to work with countries in Africa and Eastern Europe. These experts active in the field of education and training. Vice versa, we also organize visits, business trips for foreign experts coming to Vietnam, including Francophonic experts come to teach at universities in Vietnam for the training programs of bachelor and master graduate, to attend the thesis defense of graduate students, to support the process of constructing and re-innovating the teaching curriculum. Typically, we have 5 upcoming training programs in French language that were deployed by these activities. Besides, we also have bilateral exchanges in the field of research. The foreign experts share their experiences, their method and research results, common problems. And finally, with the field of assessment, including the whole process of testing, monitoring and evaluation necessary to help with the problems of Vietnam.
I also have come to notice that AUF has been in Vietnam since 1993. So is there a specific reason for establishing AUF in Vietnam in this year?
Oui, cette question est importante parce que
I think this is a very important question because we just celebrated our 20th anniversary based in Hanoi last year. So far, we had been in Vietnam for 21 years. AUF chose Vietnam as the office location because we wanted to have a regional influence. It is also the vision of the International Francophonie Organization, or IOF, and this year they are celebrating 20 years of office in Vietnam as well. The reason for locating in Vietnam, from our perspective, is saying Vietnam is a country with the large community who know the French language in the region. At the moment, not many people use French in Vietnam in comparison with English as a majority, but we cannot deny that the number of people studying French and speak French in this country is very crowded. This factor creates the development potential of the Francophone community in Vietnam. Vietnam is a very active country in the international arena in general and the Francophone bloc especially. For example, Vietnam successfully organized a French-speaking country summit in 1997, and there are a variety of diplomatic activities toward the French-speaking bloc. From the office in Vietnam, we are in charge of the network of Asia, from India to China, and from the Pacific region, with Vanuatu, New Zealand, Australia. I wholeheartedly think having a headquarters in Vietnam is a great and effective decision.
So now why don't we take a closer look into the next reportage of the exchange activities between French-speaking communities and Vietnam. Vietnam is the center of the activities in the French-speaking region, as well as the international organization of the French-speaking community, reflected by the presence of the representatives of Vietnam in all activities and Francophone events in the world, in different levels, in every meetings, dialogues, and exchanges. Currently, the international organization of the French-speaking community is drafting the framework for medium-term strategic partnership with the participation of the working group directed by the representatives of Vietnam. This shows the active participation and responsibility of Vietnam in this field.
Cái này thì tôi nghĩ là có. Đầu tiên ý, thì là nó là một cái dấu hiệu, một cái hình ảnh của Pháp ngữ. Cái thứ hai nữa là có điều kiện để cho thanh niên quan tâm, và đặc biệt là các bạn học sinh và sinh viên tiếng Pháp hoặc là những người làm việc trong ngành tiếng Pháp thì cái điều kiện để giao lưu, để học hỏi và để làm quen với tiếng Pháp. Chỉ mỗi năm là thông thường khoảng 100, thậm chí 150 sinh viên, và cái con số sĩ số đấy rất đều đặn. Thì chứng tỏ là thanh niên Việt Nam cũng quan tâm đến tiếng Pháp. Và sinh viên học thì tất nhiên là trong lớp có nhiều người giỏi người kém, nhưng mà nhìn chung là các em học rất là hứng thú và thầy chúng tôi rất là phấn khởi.
The foundation for the strategic partnership between Vietnam and the community of French-speaking countries are based by the cultural exchange, typically the learning and teaching activities, business trips of foreign expert delegations, which are organized by the French institutes in Vietnam. Through this, develop and expand the French-speaking community in Vietnam, hence opening up the trade opportunities and cooperation with developing French-speaking countries in the community for Vietnam. So through the working years in Vietnam, what is your assessment about the potentials of development of the French-speaking community in our country?
Souvent on nous dit que
There may be some opinions that the community knows French in Vietnam was weakened with less quantity. But in fact, according to the statistics, it shows that the number of people studying French in Vietnam is increasing, especially in universities. Over the past 12 years, the number of students learning French has doubled compared to the previous situation. This shows that the Francophone community is growing fairly optimistic in Vietnam. That is a good signal for your country as well as the French-speaking countries' community.
And through what activities and campaigns would you embark on promoting the French-speaking community in Vietnam?
With the goal to develop the French-speaking community in Vietnam, we have been implementing a lot of activities and projects directly involved with this community in Vietnam. We should mention the annual activities such as organizing summer schools for Francophone students in Vietnam. This particular year will be held in Da Nang, as well as training summer courses for French teachers. This year will be held in Hai Phong. Besides, the dynamic competitions is also an annual event which gathers together over 500 students from all majors instructed in French or studying in French language major in the region. The national final in Vietnam this year will take place in July at Da Nang. Regarding for our communication department, we opened up the website for the Francophone University Community for Asia Pacific region with the design to connect universities in the region and to promote this community, creating outreach efforts and attract French enthusiasts. In conclusion, through events, community activities, and virtual tools like social network or websites, we're nurturing the development of Francophonic University community based on the activities of connecting and extending the numbers, help them communicate and work together, as well as connecting French enthusiasts the chance to enhance their horizon and exchange information with each other easily.
For the next questions, what are the strengths of the French-speaking countries that you would like to further the exchange activities with Vietnam?
The Francophone countries are having many strengths, for instance, tourism, architecture, health, environment, and education. However, this year, AUF focused on the theme of sustainable development. Accordingly, we set a goal to help people to be aware of the changes in the environment and make sure they understand the common responsibility to that change. We are particularly running active propaganda of environmental protection activities such as less waste disposal, regional fuel consumption, more responsible living, and encourage green using technology in their life and industries. I think since French-speaking countries' community are those having a lot of experience and practical lessons learned in this field, and we are focusing on this year's activities to bring experience to Vietnam through learning exchanges, as stated before.
And last but not least, what is the future actions plan for AUF in Vietnam, and how would you like to link Vietnam with the regional countries in the network of AUF?
We will continue to support educational activities and educational exchanges in Vietnam. One of the main activities in this framework is the exchange of experts between Vietnam and the world. In addition, we continue to support students in Vietnam have the opportunity to study at the French departments in Vietnam and other regional countries, as well as countries using French language with training system of international standards. This is our main activity and continuously have been developed and innovated. In the future, we have 5 more specialized training, particularly in Vietnam.
Thank you, Mr. Olivier, so much for having us here today. And that's the end of Sharing Vietnam today. Thank you so much for watching us. Hope that this has furthered your knowledge about the exchange activities between French-speaking countries with Vietnam. Any questions and concern, please email at sharingvietnam@vtc.vn. Thank you and see you again.